Good morning, it's Mike Lynch with AmeriFirst Financial, and it's Monday morning. Coming to you outside, it's time for your Monday morning mortgage update. So yeah, I'm outside this morning, outside my office. It's the first time in a week that we haven't had smoke where it actually hurt your eyes and your lungs to be outside. And hope everybody had a great weekend. We had a big smoky weekend, and heart goes out and prayers go out to everybody in Greenville and everybody affected by the Dixie Fire and all the fires in Northern California. We hope that these things get put out real quick. And so again, hearts and prayers go out to everybody. So let's talk about the market, what happened last week and what's going to happen this week. So last week, rates actually started low and then they went up. And let's talk about why that happened. There's really, got my notes here, there's really kind of a yin yang and a push-pull with the market right now. We're seeing a lot of fears with COVID and the Delta variant. What's that going to do, long-term effects with the economy? Then we also have strong economic news and high inflation. Both those numbers came out at the end of last week. And so we see this concern about the long-term economy and how it's going to affect things. But then we've got these numbers of high inflation and high jobs, which really is pushing those mortgage rates up. And the jobs and the inflationary numbers won out last week. So we're starting the week really with rates higher than they were. But what are the three things we're looking at this week? We're looking at inflation, we're looking at what will the Fed say, and the kitchen sink. So let's talk about inflation. Boy, this has been a topic many times over the last year. And year-over-year inflation data is coming out this week. So we're going to get the PPE and the CPI, key measures of inflation. We expect both those numbers to be high. The PPE is expected to be about 4.3%, which is double the Fed target rate. And that high inflation is going to drive mortgage rates up. Now, we have seen high inflation in recent months, but the Fed has always over-talked that. They said, hey, we're going to keep buying mortgage-backed securities in the bond market, which is going to keep, even though the inflation numbers are high, we're going to keep those mortgage rates down artificially. But how much longer can they do that? And so the other thing with inflation is supply chain issues. Many companies now announced last week that they're making permanent price changes, permanent inflation price changes and quantity changes to their products that they don't think is going to change. You know, everybody's been talking about this inflation being temporary, we're going to recover from it. Now companies are thinking that this inflation is going to be long term, and that's going to affect everybody's pocketbook. So again, that's driving those mortgage rates up and has the ability to drive those mortgage rates up this week with the CPI and the PPE reports coming out. So second thing is, what will the Fed say? So we know the Fed had a meeting a couple weeks ago. They kept the prime rate down, but what are they saying about the economy? They're going to start talking to the news outlets and giving reports. And what will those Fed members say about their projections on the long-term economy, their projections on how COVID's going to affect the economy? Will they start talking more about tapering, which is meaning buying less mortgage-backed securities, which could drive those rates up? They've talked about it, then they backed off. Is that going to happen in the first part of 2022? We just don't know. What are they going to say this week? We'll be paying a lot of attention to that. And then the third thing is the kitchen sink. So three things. Fed sells treasuries once a month to pay for debt, and we got some big treasury sales this week. And what's the appetite for those? Are long-term bond traders going to want to buy those treasuries? And if they do, that's good for mortgage rates. If there isn't a big appetite to buy those treasuries, and that could drive those mortgage rates up. The other thing is Goldman Sachs and a few other financials actually downgraded China's long-term growth measures. And what that really means is that they have less confidence that China's economy is going to be strong moving forward. And there's a lot of things that are happening in China. Increased COVID numbers, labor and the workforce can't make stuff. And that disrupts our supply chain for many of the products that you and I buy, iPhones and everything else. And the other thing is the stuff that they have been able to make. If you look at all the ports in the US, they're all backlogged. They can't unload the product that's being shipped to these ports because we're having employment issues. We're having issues actually getting people back to work. And so all of this is having a big impact on our ability to get supplies to meet the demand, and that's inflation. The other thing is COVID around the world and our economy is that looming thing. It's why we're in this mess, or part of this problem that we have is because of COVID. And now that the new Delta variant and increased cases around the country and around the world, how's that going to affect the long-term outlook for our economy? So a few things that we want to definitely look at this week. This is a heavy economic week. It's going to be a volatile week. We're starting today actually locking and really looking at those inflationary numbers coming out midweek. If we see any changes, we'll change it to a float position, but right now we're going to lock until we see some better news out there for rates. So hope you have a wonderful week. Happy Monday, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.